for us, it's about connecting people to people around the world, saying, you know, you don't have to just feel like sorry for people. You can actually say, well, I actually recognize myself in them. You know, like they're you know, they're loving. They're a loving couple. They have children. They're talented. You know, they're funny. And just create this human. You know, for us, it's like people know about problems around the world, but you have to care about the problem. And I think the way to make people care about the world is to connect them to people within the world. I mean, it's about Sierra Leone, and the backdrop of it is the war in Sierra Leone, but really I want to show a human side, you know, have people connect to other people from around the world, you know, somebody that they might, you know, normally just see like on some, you know, CNN report, you know, you go to a refugee camp and you see somebody, you know, with a, I don't know, a starving child or whatever, and that's all we get as images from Africa. And for me, it's, you know, what we try to do is connect people, you know, create empathy, you know, not sympathy.
There's no doubt in my mind anymore that there are two nations living in this country, the Icelandic nation and this invisible nation.
I think supernatural things are very natural.
Huldufolk means the hidden people.
For me, I will do films that interest me, that I'm very passionate about, that there's some kind of commentary, whether it's on society or whatever that may be. Those are the kind of films that I'll do. And for me, what makes, in particular, my film so interesting, Huldufolk 102, is that it's a rare documentary in the sense that it's about an idea, it's about a belief, it's not about an event, and it's not about a person. And I've never seen a documentary to date done on an idea or a belief. And so to me, you know, even though on one level we talk about elves and hidden people living in rocks and stones, we actually build the film to a much more metaphysical level about, you know, man and his perceptual limitations and, you know, inability to really understand everything around him. And so that's the kind of films or that kind of subject matter interests me. And I think for me that's the kind of film work that I would do, is to bring things to light that people maybe don't know about, or that's you know, something that's unique, has a unique story to tell. Because, you know, for me, documentaries right now, because of the war, you see so many war documentaries, and that's great. But to me, I want to do something different. I want to try and capture something that's a little bit more unique and not, it's not, you know, not really out there at this point. And that's what I hope to continue doing.
اجت هوايه الجيش الاسباني بدنا صايرين بالصفحه الثانيه بدنا فظاهر ماخذين مواقع حدث ضربوها بالحجر شوي رجعوا ضربوا الاثنين الظاهر يعني الظاهر على ما اعتقد حتى من بين الملايين من شايل السلاح صارت مواجهات صارت مواجهات ممكن تبدي بعد يعني هوايه ضربوا
Ready? It's a hard one. I don't know how I'm going to answer this. I have to think about it. I don't want to think about it too much. I like to think of myself as an artist, and perhaps why am I an artist? It's about having an open mind and being curious about the world. You know, not taking things for granted that are around you, and really, and then also broadening your horizons. And you can take a step back from this festival and see, you know, the breadth and the diversity of the subject matter, and you know, it's just inspiring to see so many different viewpoints, and there's so many different stories from all over the world, and you know, that's it's about finding unusual stories for me. That really gets me going. Finding unusual stories, things that surprise you, but also things, you know, unusual and surprising stories that are in the everyday, in the mundane. You know, I believe that you could make a film about your life, and it could be the most interesting film in the world. And you know, there is so much going on a day-to-day basis in anyone's life. lives. And I think that there is always the potential to find stories in the smallest of things. That's getting a little radical or experimental, if you will, but I believe that at the core of filmmaking or storytelling, you know, stories are just everywhere. It's a universe of stories.
I make films because I think that people need a forum for communication. I feel that although we're this age of communication and everybody has cell phones and Palm Pilots and Blackberries and email, there isn't much of room to sit down and talk about issues that matter to all of us, even if it's I see the movie today and you see the movie tomorrow and we talk about it next week, but giving everybody a common ground to talk about things that are important and are going on around us, and a chance to kind of observe our own culture and figure out what is it that we're trying to say in this world, and what is the mark that we're making, and what is the legacy that we're leaving. So, I think that's a little high-minded. I also make it because it's fun.
The kind of work you do, that's really excellent. Yeah, totally.
We're on Working Street, artsengine.net.
Cool.
But slowly, Richard's ark was sinking, though the shore, he told us, was in sight. So he took us to New Jersey and showed us his solution. And I think that it's kind of a why do you eat and why do you sleep question. I just find myself shooting, and I find myself thinking in terms of the film medium and the ideas that I have that I want to play with in life as far as stories and visuals and poems and words and everything. I see it on a screen, and I want to play with the images on my computer, and so I just find myself working in the film medium, and there isn't really a why. I couldn't say. I guess I could kind of give you more of a negation reason, which is I don't think about that I want the audience to feel some way or think something, or that I think the world needs to know about one issue more than another. I think that everyone has interests and things that really fascinate them, and we're all so different that if we all make works based on what interests us, we'll cover all the topics eventually. And if there are enough means of these things being shown, such as film festivals, then I guess people like me have an outlet for the things that we make. If there weren't film festivals, I imagine I would still be making these and showing my friends, but I'm sure glad that film festivals exist.
Let's start. Living like a refugee, it's not easy. You see, I just took all the problems, the suffering of the people, and make it. You left your country to seek refuge in another man's land. You left your country to seek refuge in another man's land. You will be confronted by strange dialects. You will be fed with unusual diets. You got to sleep in a tarpaulin house, which is so hot. You got to sleep on a tarpaulin mat, which is so cold. Oh, we on time, living like a refugee. And now it's not easy. It's really not easy. Living like a refugee. It's not easy.
My role in this whole festival is generally, hey, pick the best movie. Let's all pick the best movies we can show. And, there's no real way to get someone to come in here. And I mean, it's all up to them. And I can go through the mechanics of it, like I said. I can pass out flyers. I can do stuff on the radio. I can put ads in the theater and wait for that to go by. You know, I can do all those things. I can stand out there with a picket sign, but if they don't like it, you know, if it doesn't grab them, then my role is kind of useless.
I think at this point I'm a facilitator, an organizer. Basically, I try and find films that are really new, that are going to strike a nerve, and films that, you know, kind of demand attention and kind of deserve the conversation and the respect that we're trying to give them here. So I know there's a willing audience in this state, and that's really my major goal, is to just bring the best films I can find, all documentary, all with a message of, you know, an uplifting message, or a message that you're not going to get on the nightly news, to people that are willing to watch them and ask questions.
For me, documentary, the interest I have in it is I'm real interested in issues of memory and issues of how we frame what we see, what we experience, what we know. And I'm interested in that a lot in terms of intermediation. You know, what are the things that we remember things by? How do we shape our memories through objects? So when we start remembering things, or when we start even recounting experiences of things, we have sort of models in our mind, what Foucault calls epistemes, and it's this notion that we have means of understanding through a language. And I'm interested in visual language, principally, and I'm interested in how each culture has forms of modes of seeing, modes of understanding through vision that give things frameworks so that they make sense. The advantage of documentary over experiencing it itself is it allows that alienated moment of, okay, you can step back and look at things without really being cluttered by having to actually be participant in them. And I know that sounds very strange, sort of why live life when you can see it on the silver screen type of sensibility. But I'm interested in that variety. Documentaries have a historical sense of shaping collective memory, and that's something which fascinates me. So it really is, you get an idea of how a culture looks at things, how a culture wishes to tell a story out of events. Hayden White talks about the difference between chronicle, which is where you record things year by year by year by year, and history, which is where you make sense of the story, you know, historia, the narrative, what it might mean to a culture. The Hegelian notion of a storytelling for a group identity. So that's why I spend my time doing it. I mean, it's just fascinating stuff for me. So there you are. Cut.
Even if it's a bad film, you can learn from that, and it's all like just a learning experience. You can take it at that level, that you're there, experience films, experiencing films, and you get to talk to the directors most of the time, and you know, get feedback from them. So to me, it's just a learning experience.
Well, I guess it would be like, I like seeing like the technical aspect of it and like all the, how it's made and how things come together, but I think as like the whole definition of the word, like it's documenting like a human experience or information or something like that, and as a society we're very inquisitive people and we like to know, we like to know things.
Everything that we've done so far has been pretty exciting. A lot of stuff doesn't really get my heart racing, but sitting in like a discussion group with one of the directors and raising your hand to ask a question is one of the few things that will really get my heart pumping, and that's really cool to me.
The Atlantic Making Company. We snubbed that
Why do you watch documentary film? What do you want to get out of it?
Well, let's see, I guess just different points of view and things to think about and different ideas, and I don't know, it just helps to keep my mind rolling and just become more aware, and it stimulates me.
I like documentary in terms of, I think that there's kind of like this 3-point system going on where everything is just kind of continuing. You're interacting with what the director created. Without you, like it had been mentioned, there wouldn't be this documentary. But I think that also at the same time, I think documentaries are made to get a reaction, and I think that the audience is this integral part of this reaction that's going on. I don't think people would make documentaries about issues of any sort, whether it's political, whether it's historical, if there wasn't somebody to receive that information. And there's also the art side. I mean, the thing is when you look at art, there's art that's kind of made for art's sake, I guess, is kind of the, but I don't think the documentary always really fits into that mold most of the time, because it's not necessarily just for the documentary's sake. I think that documentaries are also made to be discussed, as we've been doing with the directors. I think that that is a very important part of documentary and ethnography. I'm actually in an ethnography through film class too, where you study ethnographic documentary. And my perspective on that is that it's very important to have a dialogue. Otherwise, the piece becomes static. It's not going anywhere. And I think that documentary, in a way, is also an archive of an issue that will be used down the line. And that's kind of a very important piece of the puzzle for me, is that it has to have, for me to really think that the film was made well, it has to really be able to be shown 10 years, 20 years down the line and still kind of have, either whether it's a historical timepiece or whatever, it has to have some kind of relevance, I think. And I think that all the films that we've seen here, whether I've liked them or disliked them, have that relevance at least.
Documentary film would say you get more of a sense of what people are actually like as opposed to what you'd like them to be like. In feature film, you can make a script, create any image you want. You know, you can make any actor be anything that you'd ever really want him to be. However, in documentary film, seeing as how you don't really know what's going to happen next, you capture more what makes us human, as opposed to what we want to be human. Our documentary is it's a better way of documenting life as opposed to just documenting pop culture or the culture that we're living in. For instance, if you watch movies such as Fight Club or that sort of thing, I bring that up because my brother and I were watching it a few days ago. He points out this dates this movie because he's using a payphone, and nowadays you wouldn't use that. And that, I think, is more what feature films are about, as opposed to documentary, where it's more about the people involved as opposed to the situation the people are put in.
ALS takes you to a world of what would you do if you only had a few years to live. if someone you were falling in love with only had a few years to live? What went through your mind when he asked you about having a baby?
I, for the first time in my life, knew this is the one. So when he said that, I thought, yes, I would have this man's baby. I would live any amount of time with this man.
I remember saying to her, I said, you know, we have to do this. And you don't have to. And you didn't have to. And she said, well, that's not true. I had to do it once I was in love with him.
Yeah, I think we have a kind of really set definition of what a fiction film is like versus one of the things that I've been trying to do throughout this process is define a documentary, which is, I think, why I like watching it, because I like seeing the differences between all of them, and you know, one film will make you think, oh, this is a documentary, and then something else will come along that is completely different and just shatters all of the rules that you just made up in your head. So I think that's one of the main reasons I watch it.
The great thing about documentary film too is it's before it's been, you know, touched and changed by distributors, marketing, which tends to, you know, change most of what's put out there in film a lot. So it's before that, so you see it in its raw form, which I think is interesting.
And I feel that coming to this festival, I think that 17 movies really can expand your views on a lot of things. From the Cats of Miracatani to stuff like Darkon, where you can just see the different lives of people and what they do for fun and what they enjoy and who they enjoy, and just, I like to learn.
You're trying to analyze what the truth is that they're trying to portray. You're trying to understand why they're saying the things that they are, and whether what they're saying is actually true or not. The truth that they're trying to portray, is it an actual truth? So that's why I watch.
Do you believe what you see?